Okay, so you guys have been sending over a ton of fascinating material lately,
Yeah.
all about AI. It seems like
It's everywhere.
it really is. It's unavoidable these days,
Hmm.
and specifically, a lot of you have been asking about Apple's take on all of this, what they call Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of buzz, but what we're going to try to do today is cut through all that noise, right?
Mhm.
And help you figure out, is this something different? Is this something you should care about?
Yeah, I mean, you've been going through a lot of this stuff already, and
Yeah.
I know we've got articles here from like BGR and Tech Radar, some analysis from Benedict Evans, even some threads from Reddit.
Oh, yeah, lots of good stuff. Really good jumping off point, I'd say. And looking at it all, one of the biggest things that kind of jumps out at you is this idea of on-device AI.
On-device AI. Okay. Sounds a little, I don't know, maybe a little intimidating. What does that
Yeah.
even mean? Why should I care?
Well, it's simpler than it sounds. Most of the AI we hear about is all cloud-based, right? Big data centers processing information. But on-device AI, all that processing happens right there on your iPhone or your Mac.
So it's staying on my device.
Exactly.
That's got to be good for privacy then, right?
Oh, absolutely. Huge win for privacy. No more wondering where your data's going, who's looking at it. It's all right there.
Okay, so no more worrying about, who's checking out my cat videos or something.
Exactly. But it's not just about the privacy, though, right? On-device AI also means things are going to be faster, a lot faster.
Okay.
So imagine like asking Siri a question, and instead of waiting for a server to respond, boom, you've got an instant answer because all the processing's happening right there on your phone.
Oh, okay. So it's like the difference between ordering takeout and having a chef right there in your kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. No delivery delays.
Hmm, I like that.
And that speed, that's really a game changer for things like voice commands, photo editing, even augmented reality experiences. Plus, you can use all these features even when you don't have internet access. Remember that time you were stuck on the subway, no signal, and your voice assistant was basically a brick?
Ugh. Yeah, I've been there.
On-device AI solves that.
Okay, so it's faster, it's more private, and it's more reliable. Okay, starting to see why this is a big deal. But how is Apple approaching this differently than, say, like a Google or a Samsung?
Well, that's where things get really interesting, right? Apple's philosophy here is all about weaving AI seamlessly into their hardware and their software. Instead of building these separate massive AI systems, they're focusing on using AI to enhance the features you already use every day.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a different approach than what we see from some other companies. It's not like these standalone AI chatbots or something. It's more integrated.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head as part of the experience. And this approach, it really makes sense for Apple because, I mean, they're known for creating these really polished user experiences, right? So for them, it's less about creating these splashy new AI tools and more about making everything you already do on your Apple devices just smarter and more intuitive.
Okay, so it's less about having AI, more about how that AI is integrated into your life.
Yeah, precisely. And to achieve this, Apple's been investing very heavily in custom-designed AI chips, like their A17 Pro, their M series chips, and these chips actually have something called a neural engine built right in.
A neural engine, okay. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kind of intense. Can you maybe break that down a little bit for us?
Yeah. So think of the neural engine as like a specialized processor that's dedicated entirely to handling AI tasks.
Okay.
It's incredibly fast, super efficient, and it allows your iPhone, for example, to process these really complex AI algorithms right on the device without absolutely murdering your battery life.
So is it kind of like having a little mini brain inside my phone that's making everything run smoothly and intelligently?
I like that. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I love that. But how do they teach this, brain to do all this stuff?
Well, that's where Apple's AX Learn framework comes in.
AX Learn?
Yeah, it's kind of the engine behind their entire AI training process. And what's really fascinating is that they've actually made it open source.
Open source. So they're letting other developers see kind of how the sausage is made.
Exactly. Which is pretty unusual in the tech world. I mean, most companies keep their AI development very closely guarded, right? But by opening up AX Learn, Apple is basically allowing developers to understand their methods, collaborate, and potentially even contribute to its development. And this transparency, I think it could lead to a much more collaborative approach to AI innovation, which is really exciting.
Okay. So we've got the philosophy, we've got the hardware, we've got the software. Now let's talk about how this all translates to actual features. What can Apple Intelligence actually do?
All right, well, let's start with one of the most talked about areas, which is writing tools.
Okay.
So with Apple Intelligence, you get advanced features like, rewrite, summarization, even tone adjustment, and these are integrated across all your Apple devices. So imagine you're writing an email on your iPhone, and then you seamlessly pick up right where you left off on your Mac, and you've got the same AI-powered writing assistants available on both.
So it's not just a bunch of separate AI features. It's a unified experience. That's really cool.
Exactly. Unified is the key word. And then there's, of course, the world of image editing, right? Where Apple Intelligence is doing some really, really impressive things, like their visual intelligence feature. This allows you to basically, just by pointing your camera at things, learn more about objects and places. It's like having a built-in encyclopedia that can identify landmarks, plants, even dog breeds.
Wait, so you're saying I can point my phone at a random flower and it will tell me what it is?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's straight out of Star Trek or something.
I know.
That's awesome.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. They've also got this really cool feature called Image Wand that can actually turn your rough sketches into like full-on images.
Oh,
So imagine like you're just quickly jotting down an idea for a logo or a design, and then your phone just transforms it into this polished image.
I can see that being so useful for like designers and artists and I mean really anyone who's, just brainstorming or trying to get an idea out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really cool feature. But how does this compare to what, say, other companies are doing with AI image editing?
Well, that's a great question, and it actually leads us perfectly into our next topic,
Yeah.
which is Apple Intelligence versus the big players.
All right. Let's do it.
The ultimate AI showdown.
Yeah.
How does it stack up against the competition?
Well, let's start with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is Google and their new AI powerhouse, Google Gemini. When you compare Apple Intelligence with Google Gemini, it's not really a head-to-head battle.
Yeah.
It's more like different philosophies in action.
Yeah.
Google's going for like this all-out AI revolution, whereas Apple is kind of playing the long game, really carefully integrating AI into their existing ecosystem.
Right. So it's not necessarily about who has the quote-unquote best features. It's more about how those features fit into that overall user experience.
Exactly. Yeah, and let's take writing tools, for example.
Okay.
Remember that article from Benedict Evans?
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how Apple's approach might actually lead to a higher adoption rate in the long run.
Right.
Because the AI is baked into the tools that people are already using every single day, it feels less like learning a whole new system and more like just a natural extension of their existing workflow.
Yeah. So it's intimidating that way. You're not
Right.
switching between apps or trying to figure out a whole new interface.
Exactly, exactly. With Apple Intelligence, those AI-powered writing features are just sort of there, right, ready when you need them. Google Gemini, on the other hand, is much more about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI. Their Help Me Write feature in Gmail,
Yeah.
a perfect example. I mean, it can literally generate entire emails for you based on just like a couple of bullet points.
Wow. That sounds pretty powerful, but is it maybe too much AI for some people?
Yeah, well, that's a trade-off, right? I mean, some people might find it liberating, while others might feel like they're losing a little bit of control over their own writing. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these different approaches play out over time.
Okay. So writing tools, two different philosophies. What about image editing? I feel like that's another area where everyone's trying to, one up each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We talked about Apple's Image Wand feature, right? Turning sketches into images. It's a great example of how Apple's using AI to kind of enhance creativity. But Google's Magic Editor in Google Photos, that's also incredibly impressive. You can do some really wild edits, like removing objects, replacing skies, even relighting entire scenes.
Hold on. Relighting entire scenes. That sounds like, I don't know, something out of Hollywood.
It is. It really is. It uses AI to actually analyze the depth and the lighting in your photo, and then it intelligently adjusts the lighting to create a whole new mood. Really powerful tool, but it definitely raises some questions about, the authenticity of images in the age of AI.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's real and what's not anymore. But I guess that's a conversation for another deep dive. What about the digital assistant battle? Siri versus, Google Assistant. How do those stack up?
Yeah, well, remember that forum thread you sent about Siri's new conversational memory? People seem to be really excited about that.
Yeah, it sounds like Apple is really focusing on making Siri feel like a more natural part of your day. you know?
Hmm.
Like it can actually remember previous interactions and understand more complex commands.
Exactly. It's definitely getting smarter and a lot faster too, thanks to that on-device processing we were talking about earlier. But Google's Gemini Live, that's no slouch either. It allows for much longer, more natural-sounding conversations. It can even seamlessly switch between different tasks, which is pretty cool.
Hmm. So Siri is catching up in terms of like smarts and speed, but Gemini Live is still kind of ahead in terms of just that natural conversational flow.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus for now, at least. But the interesting thing is that Apple's approach, it might actually be better for certain tasks, you know? Like one of the expert analysis pieces you sent pointed out that Siri's tight integration with the Apple ecosystem makes it incredibly efficient for things like setting reminders, sending messages, or controlling your smart home devices.
Right, right. It's not always about, who has the most advanced AI, but rather who's using it in the most practical and helpful ways.
Exactly. And let's not forget, Samsung, they're making some interesting moves as well. They have Galaxy AI, and while they're offering some pretty powerful features, they seem to be leaning pretty heavily on Google's Gemini for a lot of the core functionality.
So it's kind of like Samsung is borrowing Google's brain for this one.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, you could say that. But they're adding their own unique touches too, like their circle to search feature. You know, you just circle something on your screen and it instantly searches for it online.
Oh, yeah. I could see that being super useful, I don't know, for research, just satisfying random curiosity, all sorts of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
But does Samsung's Galaxy AI feel as seamlessly integrated into the overall user experience as Apple Intelligence?
Not really, no. That's definitely where the difference is most apparent. Apple's approach just feels more holistic, like the AI is really woven into the fabric of the operating system, whereas Samsung's Galaxy AI, it still feels a bit more like a collection of separate tools.
Okay, so we've got Google kind of going for raw AI power. We've got Apple focusing on seamless integration and Samsung, I don't know, riding the wave somewhere in between. It's a fascinating landscape.
It really is. And you know, it's not just these big players either. Remember that research paper you sent about Qualcomm's AI engine? They're a major force in the mobile chip world, and they're really pushing the boundaries of on-device AI as well.
Right, because they provide a lot of the chips that power a lot of Android phones.
Exactly. Exactly. And like Apple, they believe very strongly in the power of on-device processing, you know, for privacy, for efficiency. But their approach is different in one key way. Apple controls both the hardware and the software, which allows them to really tightly integrate the entire experience. Whereas Qualcomm, they supply chips to a ton of different phone manufacturers, so their AI engine has to be much more adaptable.
So Apple has more control over how that AI works on their devices, whereas Qualcomm has a much wider reach across the Android world. Interesting to see these different strategies play out.
Absolutely, yeah. But here's a question for you. With all these companies making all these big claims about their AI, how do we actually measure which one is better?
That's a really good point. We can't just take their word for it.
Right.
We need some way to actually compare them objectively. And I know that research paper you mentioned had a whole section on AI performance metrics.
It did, yes.
So what are those metrics? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, accuracy. How often does the AI get things right? Whether it's understanding a voice command, translating a phrase, or identifying an object in a photo, accuracy is absolutely essential, but it's not the only factor.
Right, because if I have like a super accurate AI that takes 20 minutes to respond to me, it's not really that useful.
Exactly. So speed is another critical metric, right? How quickly does the AI process information and respond to your requests? Then there's power efficiency. AI can be really demanding on a device's battery life, so you know the more efficiently it runs, the better.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I'm always looking for ways to, save battery. So accuracy, speed, power efficiency, what else are we looking at?
Well, you know, even if an AI system is super accurate, super fast, and really power efficient, it doesn't really matter if nobody uses it.
Oh, so adoption rate. How many people are actually using those AI features?
Absolutely. And even if people are using it, how are they using it? Are they engaging with it deeply, or are they just using it for those quick kind of basic tasks?
So session behavior.
Exactly. And then finally, there's user experience. Are people happy with how the AI works? Is it intuitive? Is it helpful? Is it enjoyable to use?
Right, because at the end of the day, if the AI is, clunky and frustrating, Nobody's going to want to use it no matter how advanced it might be.
Exactly, exactly. And it's important to remember that even with all of these metrics, judging AI performance, it can be a little tricky.
Oh, how so?
Well, because different AI systems might excel in different areas. One might be incredibly accurate but slow, while another might be super fast but less accurate.
Right, so it's not always this simple apples-to-apples comparison.
Exactly. And this brings us to an important point. No technology is perfect, right? And Apple Intelligence, for all its strengths, it does have some limitations.
Okay, let's get real. What are some of the downsides we need to be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest limitations, at least right now, is device compatibility. On-device AI requires a ton of processing power.
Yeah.
So Apple Intelligence only really works on those newer Apple devices with the powerful M-series chips or the A17 Pro.
Okay, so if you're rocking an older iPhone, you might be missing out on some of the fun.
Yeah, unfortunately. And even if you do have a newer device, those chips still need at least 8 GBs of RAM to really flex their AI muscles.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, AI is doing some pretty heavy lifting. So,
Yeah.
device compatibility, RAM requirements. What other limitations are we looking at here?
Well, language support is another area where Apple Intelligence has some catching up to do. Right now, it's really primarily focused on English.
Yeah, hopefully they'll expand that soon.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a whole world out there that could benefit from these features.
absolutely. Tons of potential there.
Okay, so we've got device compatibility, RAM, language support, anything else.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that while Apple Intelligence can generate some really cool images, it's not quite at the level of creating like photorealistic images yet.
Okay, so no AI-generated Mona Lisas just yet.
Not quite, no.
Got it. What about privacy concerns? I know we talked a lot about the benefits of on-device AI for privacy, but are there any potential downsides there?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that some experts have raised concerns about is Apple's use of web scraping to train its AI models. So basically, they're collecting data from websites all over the internet to teach their AI how to understand and generate different types of content.
So even though the processing is happening on my device, the training data itself is still coming from the web.
Exactly, yeah. And while website owners can technically opt out of having their data used, there are still some questions about, how this data is being collected, how it's being used, things like that.
Right, right. Good reminder that even with on-device AI, there are still these, important questions about data privacy and transparency. But big picture, it seems like Apple Intelligence has a ton of potential. Where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, from what we've seen in all the research and articles you sent, it sounds like Apple has some pretty ambitious plans for the future. Expanding language support is definitely a top priority, making sure that these features are available to everyone around the world. They're also working on some really advanced writing assistant features like plagiarism detection, even smarter paraphrasing tools.
Like AI that can actually help you write better.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, they're even exploring the idea of making Siri customizable.
Oh, wow.
You could actually give your digital assistant a unique voice, a unique personality.
So I could have my Siri sound like, I don't know, Morgan Freeman.
Hey, maybe someday.
Hmm.
And of course, Apple is constantly working on improving Siri's infrastructure, making it even more powerful, even more responsive.
So faster, smarter, more personable. Sounds like Siri is getting a serious upgrade.
Yeah, big time. And here's a really intriguing tidbit I came across. There are actually rumors that Apple might be considering collaborating with other AI companies like Google or Anthropic to really accelerate Siri's development.
Wow, Apple and Google working together on AI. That would be huge.
It would be pretty
I
wild.
would definitely shake things up.
Absolutely, yeah. So as you can see, the landscape of AI, it's constantly evolving. Apple's a major player, and it's going to be really fascinating to see what they do next.
All right, deep divers. Time to surface and recap what we've learned today. We dove deep into the world of Apple Intelligence, Apple's answer to the AI craze, and explored how it compares to the competition.
Yeah, we talked about the rise of on-device AI and how it offers some pretty compelling benefits, things like privacy, speed, and reliability. And we saw how Apple's really taking a unique approach here, weaving AI seamlessly into its hardware and software.
We examined the key features that set Apple Intelligence apart. Things like those AI-powered writing tools, the image wand, the increasingly intelligent Siri. We also took a critical look at how different companies are using AI, with some opting for just raw power and others really focusing on that integration and user experience.
And of course, we talked about how to actually measure AI performance, beyond the hype, looking at things like accuracy, speed, power efficiency, and maybe most importantly, that user experience.
And remember, folks, our goal here was to equip you with the knowledge to make your own informed decision about Apple Intelligence. Is it worth the hype?
Yeah, that's up to you to decide. But here's a final thought to ponder. With Apple's focus on creating that really seamless and user-friendly experience, could their approach actually become the dominant model for AI in the future? Or will the more feature-rich cloud-based models like Gemini ultimately win out? What kind of AI future do you want to see? One that's seamlessly integrated into your life, one that pushes the boundaries of what's possible, or maybe something else entirely? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of AI. Who knows what amazing discoveries await? Until next time, deep divers.